Bonjour. Well, that was kind of fun. Hey there.
Hey.
The digital world is weird, man.
Good.
Okay.
Are you using your fancier looper, Eric?
I am.
Dick.
I gave you guys the good one.
You told me not to use it.
Oh, no, the first one, I gave you the good one, and then I sent you a simple one. The very first one I gave you had one problem in it, which is why I said...
You know, but the second one you sent, then you sent a third, and you said don't use the second, so I used the third, which was the micro instead of the mini.
The micro is not as good.
See, I did some reading. A little bit of reading. So I got the micro. The micro has the mini has too many inputs. Is that the problem?
It's got several inputs. But yeah.
One thing that was definitely confusing to me, or I shouldn't say confusing. That's the wrong phrase. But in terms of playing other people's stuff, I was short a hand.
Yeah.
Because I have a toggle and a knob, and if I'm using those two things, I can't play my own instrument.
Yeah.
But the way I got around that was by just turning the decay to, infinite, basically, on the Moog, so that at least it sustained a note, but then all I could do was sustain. I had another sustain, which is that I had a delay after the signal path, so that and I could also just turn that up to infinite if I wanted things to delay there. And then I could do the toggle and knob together. There were times I wanted to be able to have it stuck on, but the toggle concept of you have to hold to go as opposed to just you turn it on, you turn it off.
Oh, I thought you were fighting for the push.
I wasn't fighting for
to
any.
activate
I don't have an opinion of what we should or shouldn't do. It was just interesting to see how that functioned. And musically, there was something cool about being able to go pop, 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 which I did. I was able. Okay, I can do this, and I can just go beep, beep, beep. Which if you had a toggle where it's an X, if you had a toggle that you have to do an on, off, you'd have it would be different. It's interesting how the limited controls are really cool, but I immediately want more control. Like this is kind of the problem I always have with max patches is I want more and then I have too much and then I have to simplify and then I want more and then I can't use all the stuff that I have. It's like the never ending thing.
I think it's really funny. Tony
Yes.
is still moving a slider like every once in a while.
He probably just turned
Does
it
he
on
know
auto
that?
so we'd pretend he was still
I
there.
think he has the
Yeah.
screen open on his phone, and he's just like talking with Monica in the car, and every once in a while, I was like, "Hey,
Every
hang on."
once in a while, just turn. Yeah, he just goes and moves it. He's still sitting on the beach somewhere having a drink. He's not even paying attention.
Yeah. No, you bring up a good point though about. I mean, there's lots of things that have been said and written about performer bandwidth when it um, comes to extending instruments, which is we all, for sure, you and I, like Nick. I'm not sure what your main interface is, but like you've got a Moog, I've got a guitar, so we have these things that we have to be playing to generate sound in the first place. We're playing it, at least for me. I mean, I'm playing it very simply, and making many mistakes because I turned the lamp off because so I couldn't see anything. But there's a even then there's still like you don't even have like you've got location issues even, right? Like you've got to turn to play the Moog and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to be said about that, about how when
You can strum a guitar and then let it ring and then do stuff.
at one point I literally put it on my lap and I turned on the EBO and just like set it on a string and
Yeah.
let it go, and then I could do more on the
Well, one of the things I have in one of my patches is I have a thing, and I considered bringing into my patch today. Sorry, I said I started a sentence and then I aborted it and I started another. I'll say two things. The first is that I considered bringing something into my patch that generated stuff so that I could play something, it recorded it, and then it could just go. And I was like, no, the whole point of this is I'm supposed to let Eric's looper catch sometimes, and so someone else chooses to repeat things. But then I don't have control of my hands and if sound is happening unless I make it. And I was like, I found myself wanting to make sure someone had something to work with if they wanted to, although there's a sensitivity in improvisation too, where sometimes you just need to lay out and then the person doesn't realize you're laying out. So there's a little bit of, so a little confusion there. And the other confusion, at least on my patch, is because I had a delay after the last person's insert, that could go on forever. Someone who thought that they were going to affect my sound might be confused that they couldn't affect my sound because it might have just been rotating what was already played. It was just delaying what was there instead of what's coming in. So, if you're like, why can't I change the pitch? It could be that, you can't change the pitch because I'm not giving any input, but my output still has it. So in some ways I feel like I should, if we really want to give people complete control, all of that stuff, or we almost need to know where we are in the insert path to understand what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's.
I think it definitely helps. It helped me seeing Eric's screen because, like, when I'm pushing this button, I could see like, oh, I can see that I'm making a change, and like visually, it helped me. And I definitely felt that same struggle with you, Jeff. Like, if I saw someone sending me signals, I felt like, oh, I need to put some input into it so that they could actually hear that them affecting sound.
Right. Absolutely. The other thing I was going to say is I have in one of my other patches a thing where I can push a button to alternate the toggle so that like, how do I explain this?
Latch versus
latch basically, so that it's either bop or bop up. I don't know how we could do that remotely because we're only giving one button and one knob. But maybe there's a way if you touch it twice in a short succession, it turns into, I don't know, or if you hold it for a certain period of time, it changes over into a different kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
If you hold it down, then it switches into a short, and then if you hold it down long again, it turns back into a let go.
We should discuss a little bit like the part of what Nick and I talked about yesterday was the model of communication. And so like right now what we're doing is we just are being very deliberate about, I'm sending you one thing. That's it. You're getting a slider from Eric. And today we did a toggle. You're getting one slider, one toggle from Eric. You're getting one slider, one toggle from Nick, etc. And there's I guess there's some discussion to be had about. So I get the awareness of what data or what control is available and how you receive it. So what we could, I'm trying to think of how to like turn this into an actual discussion. But the way that we could structure this is more that instead of prescribing everything ahead of time, you could see what controls are available, and you could like subscribe to the ones you want, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, are you suggesting that I would show my patch and then I would say, Nick, what would you like? And then he could say, I want your pitch shift. You mean like that?
Kind of. Yeah, in a way, because I guess like the idea is that if you, and Nick, you jump in to correct me or add to this, but the idea is like you see how many. That's kind of backwards actually. There's a difference.
It is kind of backwards.
Yeah, there's a difference between being able to see what controls I'm sending versus what things are available to be controlled, right? So we could set up our model, our like collaboration server client model of, you can see what controls are available that you would pull in to affect your stuff. Like you can see that I have 4 sliders and 4 knobs or something like that. Or what you just described is kind of the other way. It's like I can see that you've exposed these specific controls to me, and you label them in some way. It's like, this one is the pitch shift amount, this one is the feedback amount of this delay, and then I can say like, oh, I'm going to grab that one. It's kind of an interesting thing to think about and discuss, is like, as we sort of develop this tool and make changes to it, because like this idea that you're talking about, there are ways to implement that we're figuring out now. So it's kind of like it's the time to start discussing like which way do we want to model it.
I don't totally see the distinction because I don't understand what you all are doing to build this. So I don't understand why it matters to make a decision now. To me, it seems like any architecture regarding how we give control, at least from the conception of like a performance, it's maybe because I'm not comprehending what you're talking about, but it seems to me that there are insert effects, there are things that are controllable in those insert effects, and you are controlling them or you're not. I guess I don't understand what you're talking about, Eric. I'm sorry.
It's the difference between offering parameters to be controlled versus offering controls. Like,
what does that mean?
You can see that I have 4 slider values that I can send you, and you can say, oh, well, I'm going to map those to this, this, and this. Okay. Or I can see that you have 10 parameters that I can latch onto, and I can pick 4 of them.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Why do we have to decide that? Isn't that like, well, I guess we can decide it because it's interesting to explore which one we want to do. But is that from an architectural level, like that's not complicated, right? It's just which way do you want to go about it?
I'm not sure if they can probably coexist. I don't know. We're working on that.
Well, I mean, what we're talking about right now is how are we approaching an improvisation together, and which of those today's thing was, we have 3 objects. I randomly assigned you to one of the sliders. I randomly assigned Nick to one of them, and I randomly assigned Tony to one of them. So that was the model where you're the other side where I get to pick who gets to do each thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about the other side, whereas you choose a pitch shifter, Nick chooses the looper, and Tony chooses the V spreader.
Right.
Really, it was like 4 years that I had the object called the V spreader, and then Trevor's like, V spreader? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry.
I remember that. I can't remember. This is a long time ago, but at some point, Trevor and I started realizing that all of your tools and your pieces had names that
Well, the other one is, the piece that we wrote together was Liquid Folds.
Liquid Fold, Ancient Caves.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. It never occurred to me that this has a sexual connotation.
There were
Never.
so many innuendos.
Never crossed my mind because I'm a complete idiot.
This is the way Trevor, clearly this is the way that our minds work.
Yeah.
It's not that you're an idiot, it's that you're not a
V spreader, it made sense. I'm like, what am I going to call this? I'll call it a V spreader because it's a variable delay and it spreads the sound. Sorry, we're not still streaming anymore, are we?
Yes, we are.
Sorry.
Yes, we are.
I apologize. This is how I name the objects. This is terrible.
Anyway, Nick, did you have anything to add to that?
I think that this conversation is very interesting because like we go back and forth because like the two biggest things are like we're developing the tool that we're using for the collaboration, but we're also developing the instrument to go along with it, right? And so like they're very different things. Like the instrument has a purpose for a specific piece or a way that we're collaborating, but then the tool is what allows almost all of this to happen. And Eric and I have like really different opinions, or we're sort of exploring how to allow this tool to be used. Because like we can constrain it so that people that use this tool only have a narrow ability to use it. And on the other end, we could make it really wide open where we have to do a lot of programming to so that people can use it the way that they want, right? And it sort of is complicated because we have to come back and then tell Jeff like, okay, we can do this or not, or that's allowed in this instrument or not, right?
Yeah, part of it is definitely like when you make one decision, you might be locking other ones away, and it's sort of the difference between like and when in terms of us having different opinions, I think we're coming to them. I'm certainly coming to the middle a little more, but I think there's a difference between like somebody like I can't remember his last name, Mark at OSU, who's doing this stuff with his ensemble. They would need a model that's like, we have complete control over this, right? Like a laptop ensemble needs to be able to say pieces we're playing, then these are the inputs and outputs that are available, etc. Done. And that's a really kind of traditional model of like, I don't know, let's say like OSE, for example, right? Like OSE is designed to be a thing where you define all your labels and it's a pain in the ass to set up. But once it's all set up, it's all completely controlled and you know exactly what's going on. The other one is treating it as like a jam space. I think there was actually something somebody made at one point called jam space. I think it was actually my master's thesis advisor, where it's like, okay, you join this place and you participate in what's available when you get there. You don't have total control. You just have to like come into the playground and you know, this playground has a swing set. Sorry, there's no slide. Like, oh,
right.
Let's play in this, you know, everyone plays on the swing set because there's 4 swings. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that this process is very interesting because at some point, the things that we're dealing with right now, when we are starting to write a piece, you start maybe from one spot and you either go one way or the other, right? But we're dealing with both spaces at the same time. I think that like when Jeff was making his instrument or my instrument, I had to make some concessions so that it could work for the certain piece. But now at the same time, we're writing this tool that should be almost as open as possible, and we're trying to take into account all those possibilities. And so like we're doing like sort of two different things at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think again, I don't know what you guys are doing on the other end, but I can understand why, Eric talks about when you make a swing set or you don't, or you make a slide, and that's the choice you have. And I think that's a possibility. It seems to me like this tool would be more interesting if the person who's in charge of it can just choose whether or not there's a slide or a swing set instead of being told I'm going to use this object that only has slides. It just seemed like how the idea of how we want to make a piece. I feel like when we're making a performance or whatever, and if I'm involved in making music with it, I'm going to want to know whether I have slides or I have swing sets. I might not care which one I have as long as I know what I have and then I can function within that environment. But in terms of making something that other people can use, it seems to me that it would be logical to make it they can choose whether they want swing sets or slides, as opposed to saying they only get one of those things.
I don't think it's
because it's just going to be so much more widely usable in that context.
Right.
There's just a lot more possibilities, and it could be that there's the default is you get slides, and that's all you get in the default setting. If you want to start adding swing sets, you got to do all this other crap. But in terms of scalability or whatever, because I do think there's something nice about like a plug and play nature of if you want to use Collab-Hub, that like last week it was, put this little thing in here, click this button, and then put your name in, and then you're almost done. This week I had to, like, wait, where am I drawing these things? Oh, I got to drag this over there. I got to do that.
This is true.
Like slightly, like, and you have to use different. Last week it was we all use the same patch. This week everyone has their own named patch. Like that's a level of complication that, yeah, as it's nice. You guys get to have like the idiot as your tester to see what the hell's going on. Like anytime I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. You're like, okay, the average idiot out there would also not know what's going on. Great.
Well, I think sometimes when I when I was writing my dissertation, I had to research a bunch of these collaborative for me, it was collaborative instruments, but of course that led to like collaborative environments as much as instruments. There were times where I was kind of like, oh, this is a toy, versus, oh, this is something meant to be, actually kind of expressive and something and a lot of that was because a lot of the collaborative stuff was set up to be, this is meant for novices versus this is meant for people who actually have experience. There's nothing, I'm not saying that one way is better than the other, but when it was designed to be for a novice, it was much more toy-like. It was much more like, okay, here's a slide and here's a swing set. Go ahead. Versus you can build the playground however you like.
I think some of my early on grad school research was on different topologies for laptop orchestra. So like I think that when we're making this collab, I'm sort of sensitive in like being able to have different types of setups and how does information travel to individual performers. Does everyone have access, or just looking for one slider? Or 10 performers looking at one slider, or is individual information traveling from one person to one person? Is it one to many to many, one to one, that type of thing? And I think that's where I'm often thinking about when we're organizing the tool part of it. Say, are we making it able to be used in many different types of setups?
One thing I thought about today is that it would be like I'm just looking at my patch the whole time, and this week I didn't have to nearly as much, or I didn't necessarily have to, because in the past I was using a very complicated patch that had tons of stuff on it. This week my input was just the Moog, and it was Moog straight into the patch 1 and the patch 2 and patch 3. So I really could have not looked at my patch at all and probably just looked at the OBS Ninja page. I didn't, because it just didn't occur to me, but I could. And I do think it would make a difference if I'm using an instrument like this. It would make a difference if I could see if other people were playing their instruments, because then that would have some impact on when I was doing something or not. And the way that you, Nick, were talking about, you could look at Eric's page and see stuff. And I think that would make a difference. And it actually occurred to me, if we were on stage together, was that Tony?
That was me.
Oh, okay. If we were on stage together, it would be different, again, to do this. Like, the same concept would obviously work on stage, but we would know a bit more about how we're interacting. There's a little bit of a faith on how I'm interacting because I'm looking at the screen, and that's my
Mm-hmm.
only feedback to tell me if I'm interacting successfully or not. That plus what I'm hearing, obviously. But and today got closer to I could feel it with my controllers, but um, in some ways the complexity of the sounds and the input still make it a little confusing to me as to what I'm hearing and what I'm controlling. And then my instinct is how do I contribute to the environment? And my instinct is I have to reach for this thing to contribute to the environment if necessary. And I want to be able to say, how do I contribute to the environment and reach for the controller instead of reaching for the Moog?
Hmm.
Like that, in terms of as I feel like those somehow, it'd be nice if I could, as a performer, choose to contribute to the environment by messing with Eric's sound and know that I'm messing with Eric's sound or messing with a recording of Eric's sound or something like that. Like, and that could maybe an interesting instrument would be. Now I'm just randomly riffing, but it'd be interesting if I could somehow know what I was about to tweak
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and really know it, and then if I'm in a mode of wanting to do something to add, I have a choice of my own instrument or I have a choice of somebody else's. Again, I tend to look at things from the perspective of like a deterministic. I'm adding stuff as opposed to the destructo method where people are fucking with what you're working on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to be, I just tend to come at it from that perspective. We didn't put enough weird shit in there that could like totally ruin people. We should try it some. It could be interesting if we just tried to like build patches that would ruin what the other person is doing.
I mean,
like,
I think
if you
there was
like,
some
how
of
do
that
you make
today.
it go wrong? How do you like build objects where it's like, if you do this thing, it will go wrong, and then see if you can mess people up constantly.
I think there was
That'd
a
be
little bit of that
fun.
today where I was playing like a specific. At some point, I just played a really simple guitar kind of arpeggio type thing, and when you're pitch shifting that up by 2.5 octaves, and sometimes popping it in and sometimes popping it out.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. Actually, there was a good moment when I did that to you, and then you were doing it back to me, where you were tweaking my pitch up and down, and I was like popping things in and out. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
a success.
I think some of this. It seems like some of this can't be. Some of this kind of stuff we can't. There's just no way to have total control over that in terms of the design of the tool or the environment. It has to happen on the actual your end and my end. The way that we design our instruments and our patches like has to be part of the equation.
Yeah.
There's no way that we can design a system that perfectly replicates like what you were just talking about without each of us having actually spent some time build. I mean, this is like every Jeff, you haven't I don't think you haven't been to Nime, have you?
Never been to Nime.
This is kind of like one of the things about going to a conference like that is some people like just finished their instrument before they get on stage. So they don't really even know what it does yet.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
why I've
that's
never been to Nime.
right. Right. And that's not to say that there isn't something there in their project. Like clearly, a lot of times they've worked very hard. They're demonstrating some really fascinating technology, but they haven't actually built an instrument yet, or they haven't actually developed a practice with it yet. And that's the kind of stuff that like we just can't build that into the system. There's no way to do that. So,
Okay. Okay.
I
think
mean,
there's a way to build into a system where you can know a bit of what it has to. I mean, it has to do with understanding what expectations are there and how to fulfill them, or whether you're gonna, when you do something, you have some sense of what it's gonna do. I mean, if I'm playing a piano, I know what's gonna happen when I push a key, and
I should rephrase when I say that there's no way to build that into the system. There's no way to build that into a system that isn't that isn't doesn't have boundaries on it. You have to design boundaries into it. You have to design like
Yeah.
this is what's available, and what if I
I,
want to
th-
do
I
this? Well, that's too bad because that's not what's part of the system.
I think one thing that, in terms of the performances or the instrument that we're building, that I heard Jeff talk about is knowing when he has the opportunity to affect sound, not touching the Moog. And to me, if we just talk about it broadly, it's about information and Jeff not knowing when he can and cannot. And we can decide when we're designing this instrument that we can put in more visual feedback. Have if we're looking at Eric's patch right there, if Jeff knows maybe with just like a simple meter object or gain tilde, visually that signal is coming into the pitch shift, then he could probably know that he could turn it on and then do something to it, right?
Yeah.
And so that could help him know there's an opportunity to do something there
How
versus
do I
somewhere
share
else.
my patch to your screen? Is it possible?
You're gonna have to reload your
All right,
browser.
that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to
But
bother.
do you see what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
Like there's
I have gain
opportunity
slider.
there.
I have meters on all my things, and so you could do that. There
Hmm.
could be some. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think I do say, like, if I was looking at this screen, it's not clear, so it would have to be big. But if there was like a red light or even like just a toggle, like this is now getting signal,
Hmm.
and it's a question of like if on Eric's right above his pitch shifter, if there was just like a little red light, excuse me, that told me that there was signal there, then I could know it's active. Maybe that's it. Maybe we just have to put like something like that, and then I do think that there, like I could probably play looking at this window or at this screen next week. Oh, next week I got the thing with Bill, but I could probably look at the screen with this and understand what's happening if there was a red light even, and like that would tell me that it was on or that there was signal coming in being generated, then because that's the difference. Like as I said on my patch, I realized as soon as we started, I was like, oh, whoever's tweaking my stuff doesn't know if they're tweaking or what they're tweaking, because I put the delay thing at the end that could go on forever even when I stop making sound. And then the person who thinks, oh, Eric's like, I can control your pitch shift, but today I can't control your pitch shift. Why can't I control it anymore? Like, you were controlling it
Hmm.
before, now you're not. And part of it is, I don't. It could be that we make a decision that the everything or that the insert effects are all at the end of the chain and there's nothing else afterwards other than a simple reverb. But it could also be that we just have a red light on and says now the thing is happening, and there Eric can see red light is on, I can affect Jeff. Red light is on, I can affect Nick. Or
Hmm.
whatever. How easy is it to do that? Just put meter. Is there like a red like I suppose it's just if the meter detects a certain amount of input, then it just turns a switch on or off.
Yeah.
That's
Was it like threshold object or something
threshold,
like that?
yeah, thresh.
Yeah.
And then it would just turn on a big red knob, or like a giant button or whatever. Bang, like a giant bang. Is there like a giant bang that stays lit? No, probably not. It's
Yeah.
got to be something like that. LED.
Yeah.
Is there an LED object?
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Seems like that should exist. I think we can build one of those, Eric. You can do that. Send it to us next week.
Well, and then, but that kind of goes to that point I was making before of like some of the stuff, like that's not on the networking stuff. That's on the patch design. That's on
That's right.
Totally
Yes.
on the patch design.
Hmm.
So
So what happened? And this is, if it's too complicated, just don't tell me. But you had to change something about the patch design this week on the networking side, so that we all have our own patches instead of the other thing. Like what changed? Why did that happen?
that was to add. Part of it was adding toggles. Oh, it was actually mostly because of the web interface. It was
Because of the
mostly
OBS
because
Ninja?
Tony had no. Tony had
Oh,
no way to change slider labels, so I had to assign like web slider 1 to me, web slider 2 to you, etc.
it's because he was using an iPad instead of a
Yeah,
computer.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
the
something
web
that.
interface is still catching up.
So it's okay. So the web interface thing is different than the computer interface. Okay.
And Nick, I
Yeah.
don't know if you saw my text, but numbers come out as separate symbols. So like the number 100 is 100
Mm-hmm.
with like a space between each digit.
Oh,
That was
okay.
kind of hard to fix in Max. You can look at my
Okay.
patch I sent you to see how I fixed it. It took a hot minute to
Yeah,
get that.
I'll fix that.
um, yeah, that was the big part of it.
So if Tony's using a computer, it goes back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we didn't have a way really to easily send the toggle. There was a way to send it for sure, but in the like easy little patch that I made, there wasn't a way to easily get it. I had to tweak that a little bit. So there's some, there's some.
Yeah.
This goes to like the part of the idea of one thing that I worked on this week in making like trying out new things with the server was how to like make labels available to you and how do you choose them. Like if you want to open your patch and have an outlet giving you the values from Eric's slider 1, like part of that is stuff that I worked on this last week. It's not in the server yet, but that's the kind of stuff that
That has to do with how detailed I want it. Like, do you want the person who's receiving the information to understand what's going on? Is that what
kind
you're
of,
saying?
yeah.
Okay. Hey, so next week, the thing is at 7. Are we, if we're doing this thing with Bill, which I think we're supposed to do this thing with Bill, how, what's going on there? What's the most likely thing that's going to work?
Bill is mainly doing visuals, right?
Bill's only doing visuals. Does he? Part of it, I think
He could.
ultimately what you're talking about is like, are we sending him live audio and then he's muxing it and putting it with his visuals there? Or is there some other? I mean, I think he certainly is capable of getting OBS to work for his streams.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the question is, how is that all happening? Realistically.
I guess it's two questions. Is do we want? I don't know. How much of us do we want to be visually featured?
Right. That's the question. I think you're exactly right. Because if it's just we're sending him audio and all that's happened, I think, excuse me, I think ideally what would happen is we would have a short introduction of some sort. That could be Bill by himself, whatever. Then there would be I'm just thinking about what people see in the world. What people see in the world, I think, is a short introduction from Bill. Then they see the visuals and they hear the audio, and that's it. And then after it's over, or before, there's some explanation of what the hell's going on. And that could include images of the patches. It could include all the heads talking about what it is. Could include this kind of conversation that we're doing right now, but with Bill also joining in, explaining what he's doing. I don't know. And then we talk about the experience of trying to collaborate remotely. A little bit of the conversation we just had, but bringing Bill into the equation and how he tries to, connect with audio remotely as he's doing visuals. That's kind of what I mean, how many people will be watching? Not that many. I'm not concerned about it from that perspective. I'm just thinking in terms of like what is a good use of time and effort, and what would be interesting for the people who do watch. I'm not concerned if it's clunky, but
Yeah.
you know.
Eric, what do you think? Do you think that it would be outside of seeing what Bill is doing? Do we want to also have ourselves on there for some reason when
Yeah.
we're playing the music?
Not while we're playing, I don't think so.
No.
Although, as I said, I'd like to be
Mhm.
able to see you guys while we're playing so that I can respond. Although I kind of also want to see Bill.
This is true.
That's a lot for my tiny little laptop.
Could we still have our thing going on
I'm gonna
this
try
way,
something real
Eric?
quick. Okay. No.
Okay.
So what I just tried was, the challenge is setting it up so that. Oh, I know what we could do.
Maybe if Bill joined as the fifth person on our side.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. One is that there's some scene management that can happen in OBS. That's part of it. And then inside of the group Chrome window that we all have, we each have, like, I can turn my camera off and you can still hear me, right?
Correctamundo.
Great. So if we were to basically start a group like this,
I just turned my camera off too.
if we were to start a group like this, you think I don't think Bill needs to be part of the same group. His feed could be separate.
Yeah, I think so too. We just open a window from the Twitch stream if we want to see it.
Well, and he could be sending his own. Part of what would be nice about him sending his own thing is because the video is a lot more important. For us, the video is not nearly as important. So we could be part of a group panel. Although if he was going to be part of the discussion too, then yeah, we would need a fifth. You'd want to be
Just disassembling things, you know.
Well, here's the cool thing about the way this works, though, is
I
that
just wanted to talk without the cover.
the group video feed and the feeds that actually go out to YouTube are different. So there's a way to control those separately, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like we could pull we could have Bill in this group chat and have 5 little windows, but Bill's individual feed could be what actually goes out on air. Getting our audio in to mix with his would be a little bit of a challenge, but it would work.
Oh, yeah, that is the harder thing, right? Because Bill needs all of our audios.
Mm-hmm. I think what we would do is we would start this group just like this. We would all turn off our cameras. Boop. And
how do I turn my camera off?
The little eyeball button.
Bottom right.
Yeah. There we go. We just went dark.
Now what?
Well,
No.
I think the only reason the thing I don't know is how would we get like in OBS, for example.
Sorry.
Look. Each window has a little cross arrow thing. Bill could enlarge his and then stream from there.
Well, but wait. We each have like the way that the way everything's.
You can't see me.
The way that
I can see you, Jeff.
When I did the cross arrow, did you only see me?
No, it doesn't change anything on our side.
That's for you. That's for you.
Oh, I see. So now Eric's big.
If you look at the YouTube stream right now, we're not even in the same order as we are in the group chat. The stream, each one of us is an individual video feed that I just took and cropped and put into corner.
So if whoever's doing the stream could just make the Bill one big, and then you would have video.
Yeah.
Look at you, people smart.
What I don't know, like right now,
to say smart people, not people smart.
I've been running this on like an old Mac Mini, and it's doing fine. I don't know what would happen if we would bring in a fifth video. That is probably need to be higher quality because I've got all of our qualities bumped down a bit since we're only taking a quarter of the screen. If we want him to be broadcasting video that actually looks good, I don't know how feasible that is. We could do it through the group chat.
You're doing the whole thing on a separate computer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but
Good job.
it's not a fast computer, as it has to be.
Well, how about
Right.
this? What if Bill were able to spectate the four of us, right? And then just take his audio feed to mix with his OBS.
You mean like he has a either a virtual audio cable or external mixer or something?
Well, OBS can take in different audio, right? And so he can just take the audio from his Chrome browser, which is the four of us, and then use that as his stream
Yeah,
audio.
sure.
Does anyone ever call it OBS or is it always OBS?
It's IBS.
I've only heard it OBS.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Bill's got to do some work in that case.
OBS.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not confident that I could like use our current setup to host a fifth source. Because the weird thing about it too is like we're loading. I don't think I can load our individual audio feeds. Let me see. Can I turn off video? No.
I think that might be the easiest way because then he doesn't need to share anything to us. And so he's not sending back himself out and then coming back in when he's streaming. He just needs to receive our audio.
Well, unless he wants to speak, right?
Well,
That's
the tough
true.
thing is we could use OBS to send audio only through the browser setup that we have. I don't know, like if I just turn my camera off, I don't know if that actually stops sending video. So in like if we want to transition between sending an audio only feed and then sending our full video so we can have a conversation like that, that would require like refreshing the browser, putting in different settings. I don't know if just turning my camera off makes it so that like the streaming computer doesn't have to work as hard. It looks like it's the same. Like just because the streaming computer is getting a black screen doesn't mean it's not actually processing video.
Yeah, it doesn't. We're not really know how Steve Seguin is processing that end.
Yeah, right, Steve.
For OBS Ninja.
Steve.
Another like just like simple solution is like we just all jump in some easy conference chatting thing and then get into Ninja for the music portion.
I don't think it would be a big deal if there was a, 2-minute reconnoiter into another solution.
We could do that.
If that makes the whole thing simpler.
I imagine that Bill should be the one to stream if he's doing the visuals.
Yes. He should also be using he should be using a Windows computer, honestly.
He does not have one.
He should get one. To do this, like, this would not be possible, what we're doing right now, if I was using well, certainly it didn't work with my laptop. You remember what happened the first time?
I thought you were using a Mac Mini. Are you using a Windows machine?
The Mac Mini is running Windows.
Oh, it's running. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. It's just OBS just does not, and it's not just OBS. It has to do with like video stuff. It's not just OBS. There's some video shit on the Mac side that has to get worked out still. I don't know if it's WebRTC stuff or what, but
well, he's not going to be running a PC. So, do you want to somehow do something different, or do you want him to just do it on a Mac?
That's not. I mean, this is. I don't know, man. I'm just telling you that it's probably not gonna run well on a Mac, and it's certainly not gonna run well if he's trying to generate his visuals, and also stream out video and also pull in our feeds all on the same laptop. That's just not happening. Or even the same like desktop.
Would it be better if this stuff was going to you and you were streaming it with the second computer?
Insofar as it's just a computer that's doing nothing but streaming, sort of.
This is what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be better, but I don't know if I don't know how well it would do with another stream that's actually going out at high quality, another video that's actually being streamed at high quality. I don't know how well it would do with one more feed.
Okay, here are your choices. You tell me what you think is better. Bill, just stop shaking your head. Just make a guess. Bill takes our audio and does his live video and streams at the same time on his own computer. That's option A. Option B is Bill streams from his computer to you with no other audio coming in, and then you get it and stream it out on your Mac Mini. Either case, he's making live visuals and streaming from the same computer. So the only difference to me is that on one of them, he's also collecting our audio and streaming. On the other, he's not he's still actually he has to collect our audio no matter what. Unless the whole thing is happening on your end and he's not collecting any audio, all he's doing is streaming, and all the collection is happening on your space. That's possible, I suppose, is that he's just sending live video to you, and we're all sending live audio to you, and you're marrying everything on one machine. He still is creating and streaming from one computer, though, in that situation. It's just a question around whether or not he's getting any live audio.
I mean, is this on a laptop? What is he using?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I can ask him tomorrow.
Okay.
But probably using a relatively new Mac laptop. That's probably what he's using.
It's most likely better to use a computer to do the streaming that isn't doing anything else the way we are now. But the computer that I have to do that is not great. So I don't know what's going to happen if we add another feed to it. I can't, unless we actually test it, I can't. I know you want an answer from me. I'm just telling you, like,
no, you're doing great. You're doing great. This is good. You're giving me an answer instead of I don't know and I don't know. Now at least we're down to I'm not sure how good it will be, but this is better.
Like, I feel really shitty about the fact that a few weeks ago I said, hey, let's try this new setup, and we had to ditch the video because it sucked. So I worked really hard on getting a setup that seems stable, and I know that, like, adding literally one more video feed might break it. I don't know that if that's the case without being.
So you think you think if Tony were there, we'd be fine, but you think the fifth would break it?
It might, because we're scaling, like, the way that I'm pulling everything in. I'm pulling in like small video. I'm pulling in low resolution, low bitrate video because we are only taking up a quarter of the screen. If I'm pulling in Bill's video, I'm pulling at least a 720, if not a 1080p video.
What are you bringing in right for me? What are you bringing in?
What am I doing? 960 by 540, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually in the URL. It says height.
Yeah.
548
oh, yeah, it's
with
960 540.
And a bit rate of like 2500, I think, or 1500.
1500.
Yeah. So we basically would be pulling in, I mean, a 1080 video should be about 4500K. So we're basically pulling in like that would be the equivalent of 3 more of our streams, right?
Yeah. Okay, the other option we have, if you don't think this is going to work, is that we do what?
I would be happy to test it, but that's the coordination of 5 people's schedules.
Well, it's not a big deal. I mean,
I'm not
Bill's
doing anything
usually
this week.
available. If you want to try to test it on like a Wednesday or something, I can ask Bill.
Yeah.
I guess he's available on a random night. Wednesday I can't do it, never mind. But I could do it on any other night probably, other than Sunday.
I'd be happy to test it, but I think it needs to be tested before. We can't just we can't assume, I don't think it's safe to assume it's going to work without testing.
Okay, well, if we were going to test it, what would you have? Do you have to create the Windows stuff like these OBS Ninja things, and then we need to be able to know what to tell Bill and what we're doing in order for a test to happen.
Bill would get the same thing that you got today. He would get a group video link to join.
A link,
that's it.
Like the one that I went to. So he wouldn't have to do any of the other collab stuff. So all he would have to do is get his streaming shit ready and then log into the link and send it.
He probably would also have to deal with, well, depending on what he does with, is he just reacting to our audio or is he actually using it?
He's just reacting. He's not using it.
Yeah, that's all he has to do. Because he would hear our audio through the browser.
Yeah.
The timing probably wouldn't be perfect, but
that's okay.
Actually, the timing definitely wouldn't be perfect, but it would be, you know, a delay of a second or less.
Okay, so then what I'll do is I'll say to Bill, hey, we're going to test Tony's of 50-50 if he can make it. So we'd only be able to get 4. But we want to say, hey, we want to do a test, with 15 minutes, it's all we're going to do. And then we log in like we normally do our login. Actually, it's not even 15 minutes. Basically, we just have to do the login, make it all happen, and then see how it looks on the other end of a stream, right? That's it?
Yeah. And everyone should be on wired Ethernet. Nick, your video is glitching out right now.
I got to get my giant ass cable.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. I got the new internet, by the way, the new wireless. Is it better this week? Did you notice a difference from me?
Yours, yeah, actually mine, well, I'm wired. Yours has been solid. Nick, yours goes rainbow once in a while.
One thing you guys didn't tell me is I bought this Google Nest. I didn't realize this was the thing that you talk to and it responds and like does stuff.
Oh yeah.
Was that important?
That didn't occur to me.
Hey Google, what time is it?
Yeah, I didn't know that was supposed to happen. Ellie was like, she's like, wait a second, you bought an Alexa? And I was like, I didn't know I was buying an Alexa. I didn't see any of this and all the info.
I actually didn't know either.
I didn't. And none of the stuff I'm reading is it like talking about Google Assistant. Then it shows up and I'm like, oh my god, it's a Google Assistant.
I think the satellite.
Which I consider you can turn it off, but
you can.
But I was like, Karis will enjoy it, and she was like giddy last night. She was running around, asking it idiotic questions.
Have you tried broadcasting to the other stations?
No, what's that? What does that mean?
So you can tell it to say. You can tell it to like make an announcement to another station.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if each base station can take in information and make sound, then you can tell another base station to like relay a message to somebody in the house.
If I'm upstairs, I can say, "Tell Mom, I'm tired," and then it'll say, "Jeff is tired."
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, she was excited last night to have it play some music and kept asking it questions and stuff.
It was easy to set up though.
Yeah, it's easy to set up. I mean, it's like you plug it in, you go to this thing, you wait a minute, hit this button. I linked the Spotify account, so although it's messed up a couple times. Like today, Karis asked it to play the loudest rock song in the world, and it said playing something by The Who, and then it played some other song completely.
Oh, I was gonna say that's actually a great answer. But
it was a good answer, except it didn't do it. It played something else. It played, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's a song I know. I think it's the hell's that band called? I don't know. No, that one. Take some time. Da, 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 everything. Yeah, that one.
Jimmy Eat World.
That, and yet it said it was gonna play The Who, and then it played Jimmy Eat World.
That's funny.
Like what? What just happened? Anyway, all right. So I'll email Bill. Say we need to do a test of the systems and see what works for him, and then we'll just get coordinated with everyone.
I'll generate the links.
Okay.
It's easy to do. Make sure everyone has them.
Great.
And
then I can in the meantime I can make my patch that has the Eric. Did you send instructions on how to put our face in the patch?
I didn't send detailed instructions, no, but I can.
Is that something that's going to be a pain or no?
No.
Great. Tell me how to put my face in the patch, and I'll have my face in the patch.
Sure. I was gonna say, I had to add something. I forgot.
Oh, you need to add the little red lights too. I can make the red lights. You don't have to do that, Eric.
It has something to do with build setup.
I know how
Give
to
us
do
the red
thresh
lights.
object. I can do that one.
Okay.
Actually, there is one thing I'm going to change in my patcher because I realized in my little object, my V spreader, there's a. I want to turn the V spreader into a thing where it's essentially a wet dry rather than everything goes through it. And you can either choose the toggle's either going to be everything goes through it, or not on means it's just a wet, or it's a wet object. You know what I'm saying? Like they both go through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I'll adjust my object.
All right. I had a thing
Great.
that was relevant to build setup. If I remember it, I'll just email it to you.
Great.
I forgot what I was going to say.
All right, so send that. We'll get going. I gotta get out of here.
Cool.
It's almost 11. Be good, everyone.
Almost 11.